The Senate Majority Whip John Thune. The Senator, I'm sure you would rather, Republicans would rather certainly be talking about news like this on the strong economy, interest rates coming down, a Goldilocks environment. You've heard that before, but it's all impeachment, impeachment, impeachment. What do you think of that?
I'd rather be talking about the economy, Neil, for sure. And I think there's really good news out there, notwithstanding the Fed's action today. If you look at unemployment, again, historically 50-year lows, 6.4 million jobs created since President Trump took office.
Are you surprised, Senator, the President
strong.
and your fellow Republicans are not getting much of a bow for that, from those who are polled? Now, the polls could be way off, but that given this, he should be off to the races, right?
I think part of it is people will factor it in. They factor it in when it comes time to vote, and most people make decisions based upon how they're affected in their personal economy, those kitchen table issues that we always talk about. And I think part of it is we need to talk more about it. This is a remarkable record, and it's built upon good tax policy, good regulatory policy, good energy policy. Those all affect and influence what's happening out there in terms of growth in the economy, job creation, and wage levels, all of which are in a very positive place right now, largely as a result of efforts made by this president working with this Congress.
Senator, tomorrow we're going to get this House vote on due process, or how an impeachment process, if you will. They're not calling it an inquiry vote, but it sounds like that is what's going on, but not much Republican support. What do you think about this if it formalizes what committees handle what, coordination with Republicans, talking to, subpoenaing witnesses and the like? What do you think?
I think the problem the House Democrats have right now, Neil, is the genie's already out of the bottle. I mean, I think they have done this in such a politicized way, highly partisan way, and I think most Americans have a basic sense and threshold of fair play, which the Democrats in the House have not met. And so now they're kind of trying after the fact to go back and say, well, gee, let's let the other side have some due process here. But the resolution they're going to vote on tomorrow doesn't do that. And they're a long ways afield of a process that represents anything that I think the American people would consider to be fair. And that's going to splash back on them. I think this is, when it's been rigged as this process has from the very beginning, and I think largely, again, built upon a premise that the Democrats started with when President Trump was elected, and that is they were already on their mission to impeach him. That makes where we are today, I think, a very difficult position for them to defend. And as we go forward, I think the American people are going to increasingly sour on what they see happening.
Senator, there are a lot of people who are already baking into the proverbial cake the House going ahead and impeaching the president later this year, maybe around Christmas time, and it will be only Democrats voting to do so, but that the 218 votes at a minimum are there. If it does happen that way and it goes to the Senate, can you think of any of your Republican colleagues right now who'd go along?
I think because of the way the House has done this, and because, like I said, they sort of tried to orchestrate the outcome of this before they ever gave an opportunity for the president or his team or Republicans to be heard. This has been a closed-door process, as you know, very much a secretive type approach, and I think that is going to make it very, very difficult for them going forward. In the Senate, if it gets here, and I hope that it doesn't, I hope that the House will decide not to move forward with the articles of impeachment, but let's assume that they do. And if it does get over here, obviously we have a responsibility under the Constitution to hear the argument, but I think the way that this case was constructed, the way that the House has gone about it, is going to make it very, very difficult to see this as anything but a partisan play by Democrats in the House, who have always had in their hearts and minds a desire to try and impeach this president from the very first day that he took office.
That might be behind some of their efforts, Democrats' efforts to block additional funding for the Defense Department. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a really bad idea, and you're right. They've now on multiple occasions tried to block funding for the military. We have a vote tomorrow. They'll have an opportunity to vote for the defense appropriations bill, but in light of what happened last weekend, a very successful takedown of a major terrorist figure and much of his operation, it would seem that you would want to support what our military is doing. They're keeping Americans safe. Democrats are standing in the way of that. They are obstructing it. They're making it very, very difficult for the men and women in uniform who defend our country, not only to get a pay raise, which would be the biggest pay raise that they've had in a decade, but also to give them the tools, the weaponry, all the equipment and training they need to continue to keep our country safe.
Senator, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir, for taking the time.
Nice to be with you. Thanks, Neil.